back to the channel, everyone. We have not been on the on-air startup screen in quite a while. We've spent a lot of our time just flying aircraft around, but we definitely have some things to talk about here. Before we get started, just a quick couple administrative things. Once again, please like, subscribe, comment. Really helps out a small channel like myself in terms of the YouTube algorithm so other people can find me. It's very much appreciated. And the second thing is I mentioned a couple weeks ago that I wanted to really help out other content creators. Most of them are going to be bigger than me, but I've met a lot of really great people in the process of making videos. And this week's kind of shout out or who I'll be featuring in the description page. So once you get done watching every single one of my videos, please check him out. Is a great guy by the name of Cartech. He does a lot of farming sim content. Outstanding. I really like what he does. I think you should check him out. I'll have that linked in the description below. Okay, so what are we dealing with OnAir right now? Well, we are finally going to meet our goal of getting down to Rio only about 2 months after we tried to start going down there. It almost became a joke. That's why I kind of called it the road to Rio, because I could never quite get down there. Apparently Brazil is much bigger than I thought, and it's just taken a while. So we are only about 80, 90 miles to the north, maybe even a little bit less. Unfortunately, I could not find one mission that would take me to Rio in the OnAir system. So I think the plan is we're going to take off, head south, which is we're just literally almost due north of it, pop over the mountain range or the hills, and we'll be right into Rio, and then we will hang kind of a right turn and deliver our cargo. It's a relatively short flight. I don't think I'm going to keep you on for all of it. It's about 180 miles. But we'll finally make it down to Rio. So we've now kind of accomplished at least one of the goals I set out, which was actually just to kind of make it all the way down here, which was really, I wanted to check out the world update. So where should we go to next? Well, I think what we can do, and we can show some other things about the program, is we can start picking up route jobs and start flying for real world airlines and ranking up. The question I have for you all is, what should I fly? I'll leave a poll probably in my Discord. I'll drop it down there today. And we can decide probably which airplane you would like to see me fly. We can maybe continue with some study level aircraft, maybe like if it lets me, maybe the Beechcraft Duke turbine version. We may potentially go up to the ATR. Which looks like it's fairly complicated. I probably have to really learn how to fly that. I've seen a couple videos on it. There's a whole series. There are about 15 of them, and they're about 10 to 15 minutes each. So it would take me a bit of time, but I'm willing to do that. Or we could go into like the A320. Don't ask me to fly Boeing. Even digitally, I would like to stay alive. So I think that's where we're going to head to next. One of the reasons I would like to do that, first of all, I'd like to show you a little bit more about the program. And the second thing is I've now spent enough time with this program. And one of the things that kind of bothers me is how they do the leaseback program. So you're required to fly 1 hour every day, but that's not an average. You have to literally fly every single day. And so for most of us who have jobs, it becomes a little bit difficult. And if you look up in the kind of like the top right tile where it says income, you can see over the last week, I've lost a little over 12,000 credits. And over the last 2 weeks, almost 9,000. Because I can't literally fly every single day. So the way around that, of course, we could potentially, instead of doing a lease back, we could do some other things. But it becomes, I really wish they would kind of change it to more of an average, because a lot of the flights I do, especially in this slow ass plane, are an hour and a half long. And so, I don't know, it's just one of the things that bothers me a little bit, how they've implemented the lease back. That is a real thing, by the way, in aviation, is that there really is a leaseback requirement. So when I was working for a helicopter company, a lot of the planes, or helicopters, I'm sorry, were all leased back. But it was generally like 30 to 60 hours a month. Kind of depends on what the deal was. And so I really wish they'd kind of update how they did this, implemented this portion. I like how they do really in-depth economic stuff, but it's a little bit hard and a little bit unrealistic to fly every single day. And this is a relatively expensive plane. It cost me around 3,500 credits an hour to operate. At the King Air, I think was close to 6,500. So you can see if you don't fly in a couple days, like you're going to completely bankrupt yourself. So anyways, that's my rant about OnAir. But we will do, I think, starting next week, or our next episode will be moving into picking up routes you can rank up. But we'll get a little bit more into that next week, how that process works. So try not to make this too long here, all the yippity yap. I've accepted, like I said, accepted a job. It's about 180 miles. We're going to head south, go over to Rio, see if we can find Christ the Redeemer, the big statue, fly by as close as possible, scare all the tourists, and then we'll head over and deliver the goods. And it's showing IFR. So hopefully this week I will figure out how to make an actual instrument approach without it all up. So anyways, that is the plan. And I will meet you out on the runway as we're getting ready to go. All right, everybody, welcome back. We are on the runway. We are all set to go. I've dialed in about 8,000 feet. Shouldn't have to get too high. And I think we're all ready to go. One thing you will not hear today, hopefully, is those old creaky rudder pedals, as I have gotten rid of those and I'm on my new purple. But let's see if I can use them. All right.
Airborne time logged.
All right, positive rate, gear up. All right, I have programmed a VOR into the nav just to the south, about 100 miles. So we'll start our climb out and turn on course. So I got my brand new set of controls. Very excited about that. It's actually what got me into flying helicopter, or flying, oh my gosh, words are so hard today. It actually is what interested me in getting into Microsoft Flight Simulator, was the possibility of flying. We are really climbing out. Let's nose over just a little bit. It was the possibility of flying helicopters that got me into Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. And the goal was always to pick up a set of controls, which finally, I know I've been talking about it on the channel for a while now. Everything arrived last week, so, or a couple days ago, which is very exciting. It was a little bit of a pain in the butt to get set up. I'll post a picture down below. But I now actually have a full set of helicopter controls, and I will probably start adding that to the channel. I know I talk a lot about being an airline captain, which I currently am, but I got my career started with helicopters. And I have about, I don't know, I think I kind of stopped keeping track, but I have about 10,000 hours or so in helicopters. So I am very much forward to doing some flying. I've done just a little bit, and I can tell you my actual, I engage the autopilot here a little bit, see if it'll kick us on. What's it gonna do? Pretty big turn just to get us on course. All right, looks like it picked it up. I've just done a couple flights, mostly just to kind of check out the controls, make sure everything's bound correctly. I still got a lot of work to get those things all going, but I picked up into a hover, and man, I absolutely suck. All right, so before we get too crazy here, let's go ahead and make sure we arm our altitude. So yeah, it's been a real adventure flying helicopters again. Pretty wild. Really enjoying it. It's going to take a little bit of work for me to get there. Let's go up to here. We've got particle separators are off. That's good. Come down here. We need auto feather off, and we'll turn on prop sync. That's good. And we've leveled out here, and I'll just pull back a little bit because we're showing over 100% on the power. So we'll just pull back just a little bit, under 100. So I'm looking forward to doing some helicopter content, maybe even some DCS, but I've got to get back to learning how to fly helicopters again. My hovering has been all over the place, doing a lot of Flying Dutchmans, just all over. So I'm looking forward to adding that to the channel. And in terms of what's been going on this week at work, absolutely nothing, which was phenomenal. As most of you know, I fly a reserve schedule, which means they just call when they need me. It can be, we run structurally short on captains as opposed to first officers. There's just less of us because we're more expensive, I assume. And so as a reserve first officer, which is what I like to do, if I can get paid not to fly, that's great. I hardly ever flew. Sometimes there would be months I'd only fly maybe 3 or 4 times the full month, the whole month, which was completely awesome, as it allowed me to spend a lot of time at home. And if some of you might be asking, do they pay you the same? Absolutely. You get paid the exact same whether I would be flying all the time or just on the reserve schedule. So why don't more people do it? I think I've explained this before, but just real quickly, you don't get as much time off. I'm only guaranteed, depending on what month it is, 11 or 12 days off for the month, as opposed to when I was flying the line as a senior first officer. I'd often have 17 to 18, 19, 20 days off in a month. So you get a little bit less time off, and you don't have the schedule flexibility to move everything around. So pretty much what I get as my schedule, I bid it. I request what days I would like to have off, and depending on seniority, they will grant it. But once my schedule is assigned, it's very hard to drop a reserve shift. Whereas a line holder, where I'm actively flying all the time, it's very easy, especially at my airline. Not every airline is like this. We may not get paid the most, but in terms of our quality of life and our schedule flexibility, we by far are the best. We actually can add, drop, swap trips pretty much at will. And so a lot of guys, and they're usually, especially as you get over summer, and by contract, they will not send out, or they'll definitely be open flights for you to pick up. I forget what the number is, but that's something that's negotiated with the company. And so maybe 10% of all flights are not even assigned. They're just in the open time pot for people to pick up. That's a contractual thing, and based off how much flying they have. So if no one picks them up, that's where the reserve guys would get used, or if someone calls out sick or the aircraft times out someplace. But we can add and drop those all the time. And so you have a lot of people who, for seniority reasons, will, let's say, fly out of, let's say, my base, Philadelphia, which is relatively not a senior base, but they'll live in Denver. And Denver's extremely senior. You can be 20 years at the company and still not hold a line. You'll be forced into reserve even after 20 years. Denver's just super, super senior. So what people will do is they'll go ahead and pick up a line out of Philadelphia. No, I'm talking kind of deep shop here, but this is kind of how it works in the airlines. And then what they do is they get their schedule, then they drop every single flight they have in Philadelphia and pick up, they'll make their own schedule out of the open time stuff in Denver. And then that frees up more stuff in Philadelphia for me to pick up. So it's probably harder on the company, but it's really great for us. So, and you have a chance, really, quite frankly, as a line holder, because you're off so much more, to pick up extra flying. For me, I pretty much try to work banker's hours. I pretty much work Monday through Thursday if I can, occasionally Monday through Friday. And I like to have Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. But it becomes very hard to pick up extra time doing that, because I can only really pick up on Friday and Saturday, because I need to have Sunday off, because that's usually the day before I go back to work. And then I can fly on Sunday, but then I have to have my required rest, blah, 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 blah. It's just harder as a reserve guys to pick up extra flying to make extra money. So that's another reason why people will tend to not fly the reserve schedule. It is considered the junior of the lines, right? The more senior lines are going to be the guys who are actual line holders. Those are going to get the best schedules generally. So it's considered really a junior non-seniority thing to hold a reserve line. I do it because I live in base. So I have 2 hours. They'll call me and I have 2 hours to show up. I could go on long haul, which would give me 12 hours, but I live in base, so it's not that big of a deal. So anyways, the whole point of this whole conversation was, as I was on duty this week, Monday through Thursday, and they did not call one time, which was awesome, because I love flying, but I love getting paid not to fly even more. So it was a great week. So a lot of time that just doesn't happen very often. Generally, out of 4 days, they'll generally probably call me 2. As we go into summer, last August, they called me every single shift. I was pretty much worn out. Made a lot of extra money though, because I went over my minimums. But anyways, so that's what's going on. At work, not a whole lot. I finally got my whole set of helicopter controls, the cockpit. It's all put together. I'll flash a picture up now. It was tedious. It probably, honestly, I'm still hurting from like bending over and picking stuff up. I'm old. But it took me like all day, and I still got to do cable management. But the great thing is, I thought I was only going to use this primarily for helicopter, but it works just fine for the fixed wing stuff. I just unplug my helicopter controls, leave in my rudder pedals. All I got to do is remove the spring, then they turn into anti-torque pedals for a helicopter, and they are nice and quiet. So unlike the old creaky from my chair or the plastic rudder pedals, that should be gone. And really, the verbal stuff is really, really nice. The pedals are beefy. I mean, those things must be, gosh, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 pounds at least. Solid metal. Really, really nice stuff. And the only hiccup I encountered this entire time was actually just getting the little old school, poorly designed piece of crap cables to plug in, like between the base and like the grips. Oh man, what a pain in the butt. Hours. Took me hours. Mostly because I didn't know what I was doing. Anyways, so that's what's going on. We should see some helicopter stuff come up into the channel. And then, as I mentioned before earlier, if you've stuck around for this takeoff, we just need to figure out what I would like to fly next. And that's really kind of driven by y'all. I'm happy to fly just about everything, as long as it's just not a piece of crap like that King Air. Man, I'm so disappointed flying that. So anything that I can maybe do a little teaching in that you guys might want to see. In fact, I was even looking at like the DC-3. Anything you guys like to see. I was looking at maybe the Heart, Aerospace, and these are all base game stuff. I was looking at the ATR, and what was the other one? The Saab. So the ATR looks like it's the most complicated. So we could probably have some good fun with that. Or I could swap over to the Airbus. I've just kind of held off on doing that because I probably need to do a whole set of tutorials on the Airbus. So that'll be its own separate thing. As many of you might know, I've already started a new series with NeoFly, and I've started off with the Cessna 152. That one will work our way up from 152, then we'll go into probably a 4-seater. Maybe after that, a twin. So it's a little bit more grindy, I think, than OnAir is, but we'll see. I'm just kind of getting started with that. And so I think we can use that to fly some of like the piston recip stuff that people like to see. So the only question here is if we should just pick up maybe study level aircraft, whether it's like I said, the beach turbine or the piston, or as other things come out, or if you'd like to keep me flying bigger and larger things. That's really kind of like the only real question that we should do with the channel, and then just kind of figuring out the finance parts of it. Right, the lease you can do, the lease back, that what we're kind of doing, we're paying like every single hour. You can rent them for 3 weeks at a time, so it's a little bit more of a time constraint. I don't know if I would do that. That's good for this channel. I'm not sure if I would like to, people would like to see that much content. But if it's something I think complicated, I can just break down the systems each time during the flight. Anyways, that's enough yippee yap. We're on our way. We still have another 15 minutes before we even get into kind of like the downtown Rio area. So I will cut you off here, and we will resume it, and hopefully this has all been worth it. This whole 2-month ordeal trying to make it to Rio. Hopefully the city actually looks nice. I can tell you, doing some low-level helicopter work in LA, which is where I'm from, that city looks horrendous. So I'm gonna have to figure out where I'm gonna fly helicopters. I got a couple great ideas for a new series, how that's gonna work. I just gotta get that all sorted out and learn how to fly helicopters again. Anyways, so that I'll cut you off here, and we will resume once we are a little closer to downtown Rio. Finally gonna make it. The road to Rio is finally gonna happen. All right, guys, I will see you all in just a second. Okay, everybody, I am back. We are just starting a slight descent. This is Rio, right on the water. We just passed the mountain range, so just starting a smooth descent down to about 1,000 feet or so, and then we'll see once we get on this cloud layer if we can find Christ the Redeemer. It looked like it was kind of southwest along the mountain range from the VOR. So hopefully just get underneath this layer and we can pick it up. One bug I may have just encountered, not sure if it's related to the latest update, is when I went to pull up my Navigraph charts, it said that there was none for the destination airport, which I thought was a little bit strange since it's a fairly large airport. Had an ILS on one end and a RNAV on the other end of the approach. So when I went to the desktop version, I found it. So for whatever reason, it was saying no charts available with my in-game iPad. So I'm not sure if anybody else has encountered that. That was a little panic-inducing, because when I last checked the weather, it was IFR over there, and it looks like the airport itself is 2,200 feet, so it's situated somewhat in the mountains. Well, this might get real interesting really quick. Maybe we can finish off this flight with a crash, but looks like I sorted it out. So I just checked on the actual Navigraph subscription. There it was. All right, so we just need to punch through this layer. We got another 3 minutes, and we've been about 1,000 feet, so we should make that no problem. I was surprised that there was not one delivery in OnAir in anything in the surrounding area of Rio. Like, just strange. You couldn't find anything at all. I don't know if that's an OnAir problem or just a weird thing since I was at whatever airport I was at that was small, as though they had nothing here. But that seems strange that there was nothing. Just off our left-hand side will be looks like the main airport where I was hoping we were going to go into, right here on the water. But nothing around here within, I don't know, 50, 60 miles or so. Crazy. I even looked at, once I landed at that airport I was going to, if I could find maybe a job, and I would have done this one kind of off screen and then flew from there back in here. And actually I can't find any jobs from there. So I'll figure that out next once I get there. What the plan is. All right, come up on a minute. What altitude we got? 2,400 miles. I think that's fine. So that was the original airport I was planning on going to. Left, 11 o'clock, that little point there by itself, that's Sugarloaf Mountain, and I think that mountain range right in front of us should be where we find the statue. I'm interested in finding the statue. I'm not sure exactly where. I've never been to Rio before. Alright, we got the alert. That is new. Too much here. Let's just knock off all sorts of things beeping up. That's probably telling us that we are too low. Right there we've got our Morse code identifier. We're being just kind of over here someplace, but I'm not sure where. But we can check out the scenery in case I can't find it. I don't delay too much here. At least from the air, 1,000 feet, it looks good. This should have been one of the cities that they updated. It's part of that world update. Of interest. I hate having those things. I think they're very distracting. Pulls me right out of the immersion. I remember seeing the map. It looked like it was relatively over here someplace, but I do not see it anywhere. In a general direction. Stadium down there. I remember seeing that on the map. Found that. I think there's a someplace. Silicon. So far, I like the terrain down here. It's nice. There. I thought it was in this general vicinity, but once again, I am not from. Here we go. Or have I ever been down here? Does it look familiar? We're just going to turn around this mountain range, head on towards our destination. You can see it.
Wind 260 at 4 knots.
Thank you. this hill and proceed en route where we need to go. We're on track. It's nice actually just fly around sometimes. All right, well, I think we're going to give up on that. I'm trying to find it. Is it by the beach resorts here? I'm sure this is probably Wild. And Carnival or wherever they celebrate down here. And I will just come find it via helicopter. One of my helicopter episodes. All right, so we'll just continue through here a little bit, and I will rejoin you as we get a little bit closer, and we're making the RNAV approach, and hopefully, as I mentioned earlier, we don't screw that up like I did the ILS. Boy, that was humbling. I hate when the aircraft does stuff that I don't know what it's doing. All right, I will catch you all in just another few seconds. All right, everybody, I am back. We are just getting ready to start our RNAV approach. Come down here. SOT-P will be our first fix, and that'll be at 7,000, and we've already set that, or at that altitude. Then we'll descend down to 046. That'll be at 5,300 feet. We'll have about 8 miles to do that, so no worries. Then from there, we go down to 3,700 feet at 0047. We'll have about 5 miles to do that, and then airport elevation's 22 feet. Let's just hope my memorization is a little bit better than it was looking for Christ the Redeemer. Hopefully I have all the altitudes right. Also, I used a little bit of fuel on the way over here. So I think we're going to have just enough to get in. Violating the 7 P's of life, which is prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. So hopefully we don't run out of gas just before we get there. All right, we're 1 minute out from the initial approach fix, so we can come down here. We can dial in our altitude of 5,300 feet. So that is set, and we should be starting our turn here in just a second. As we get about, I don't know, about 0.3 miles, that's kind of what we use for the airlines. Go ahead and head on down. We're making the turn back down here. Right click, engage, and we will dial in 1,000. Got plenty of time, and we'll hit arm to make sure we hold that altitude. All right, so we are starting the initial approach for the RNAV. Our speed up a little bit here. No reason to slow down. Very disappointed I couldn't find Christ the Redeemer, the iconic statue in Rio, but they said maybe I'll do one of the helicopter flights. We'll just do a test flight down there and we'll find it all. I do need to figure out a way to return this aircraft. We are I think we ran this thing all the way up in northern Brazil. So, I don't know, maybe I will hire an AI pilot and have him pick up a bunch of flights en route to the destination airport, or maybe I'll do it off camera. I'm pretty sure this flight actually is going to end up costing me money. I think it only paid out like maybe 1,800 credits, and this flight's been well over an hour. So this just happened to be the closest airport that I could find next to Rio that made sense. All right, you should see 5,300 feet. Should start to hold. It has, and we have another minute here. Perfect, that worked out great. We can though as we start getting closer, we'll start bringing out a little bit of power. We'll come down here. Now we can dial in, right click here to get our altitude. Just 3,700. And we will bring in our first notch of flaps. Check our fuel. All right, about 50 pounds per side. All right, get ready to start the turn. So we'll come over here. We will select right click again, engage, which sets it to 0. We will come down again about 1,000 feet per minute. We'll hit arm, and we are on our way down. Check our airspeed, make sure we don't start to increase our speed too much. %85 or so seems to be work pretty good on the Banderandi for your kind of your approach setup. All right, next stop is 047, and that will be our final approach fix. All right, 1,000 feet to go. Just wait till we get our out hold right there, 3,700 feet. Then if we want, we can come back down to here. We don't need to, but we could simply dial in our 2,200 feet right there, which should be approximately airport elevation. About a minute to go, so let's bring in our second notch of flaps. Adjust our power probably just a little bit so we don't slow up too much. Bring it about 90 or so, see if that works. All right, coming up on the top there, so let's come back down here. We don't need to do this part, we just hand fly it, but we can just roughly 600 feet a minute should do it. We don't need to worry about engaging the bottom since we will be there. All right, let's put our gear down. We got the runway there straight ahead right between our windshield wiper and the post. Bring in our third notch of flaps. All right, this profile looks about right. So let's let the autopilot keep doing its thing. Let's check our fuel. I think we'll make it. fully configured. Gear is down. Landing light is on. All right. We assume we are cleared to land. Looks like it's got a slightly offset there. All right. About 500 feet above, we can go ahead and kick off the autopilot. Looking for right about 100 knots or so. First time using my new pedals. Let's see, hopefully I don't under or overcorrect. If the landing sucks, I will blame the new hardware. Never take responsibility. All right. Back over to center line. Let's pull out our power. Don't climb, those over.
Landing time logged.
We will taxi this sucker in for the last time on OnAir. I got my last round of applause with it. Love it. See if my brakes work. Landing light on, off, taxi light on. Let's bring our flaps up. Gotta get used to these brakes. Got a lot more travel.
Engine off time logged. The flight is finished. It has been monitored by OnAir.
All right, so we will call it a flight. The next time we will decide what aircraft we're going to fly. We're going to pick up the route jobs. We'll choose an airline. Feel free to leave a comment down below what airline you'd like to have me fly for, and we will level that up. Once again, thanks for all the support. I picked up a lot of new subscribers with my new NeoFly series. If you're just coming over and watching, I truly appreciate all the support I've been receiving. If you haven't checked out the NeoFly series, I'll leave a link down in the description below. I'll leave it the end card here. Once again, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I will catch you all in the next one. Take care for now. Bye.